is November the 7th, 2006. I'm interviewing Ann May in the archives room at St. Mary Parish, Muncie, Indiana.
The first question, if you were not born in Muncie, what are your impressions of the community then and now? No, I was not born in Muncie. My husband and I moved to Muncie in October of 1997, so we've been here 9 years. My impression of Muncie when we first moved here was it's a college town. That when the students are here and school is in session, there seems to be a lot going on, but when the students are gone for the summer, it seems to be a little more quiet around Muncie. Definitely noticed the difference in the restaurants and the shopping centers and different things. So that was kind of our impression of the community. We very much liked the community. We still do. It's about the same size as the community that I grew up in, and so it was a familiar size for us. Our life as a Catholic before we came to Muncie, I was born and raised Catholic. I've been Catholic my whole life. I went to Catholic elementary school, Catholic high school, Catholic college. So my life as a Catholic, it was very strong when I was in college. My husband and I met in college, and we always went to church together. Had a very wonderful experience when we were in college. And so when we came to Muncie, we were looking to continue that. We had one child at the time, and so we were looking to foster that faith with him, even though he was little at the time, but knew that we would be here in Muncie for a while. So how long we've been in the parish, we joined St. Mary's as soon as we moved here, which was, like I said, in the fall of 97. We were told, I don't remember how this sort of came about, but we were kind of led to believe that unless you were affiliated with Ball State, you either joined St. Mary's or St. Lawrence. And because we didn't have any affiliation with Ball State whatsoever, we joined St. Mary's strictly because of the proximity to where we lived. It was much closer for us than St. Lawrence was, and so that's why we started coming to St. Mary's. What part belonging to your parish plays in your life? It's a big part. In my life specifically, my parents were both very, very involved in church when I was growing up. My dad was a lector, and my dad sings in the choir, and my mom served on several committees and different things, and so parish was always part of my life growing up. I was an altar server and was always very involved, and so it's a big part. I think it's important to show your children how to be involved and to be involved yourself. So what specific memories of the parish? Well, since we haven't been here very long, I would say my fondest memories are when my children were baptized, and probably when my oldest made his first communion, which was, 3 years ago. So, but we haven't, I obviously don't remember the basement church or anything else beyond what is currently here now. So, memories of pastors and assistants, and when we moved here, Father Grady was still alive. I didn't really know Father Grady very well. I have wonderful memories of him. He was always so very kind to my family and my children, but I would say one of my fondest memories is probably of Father Dudzinski. He was very active in really getting our family involved in the church. When we first moved here, I was still working in Indianapolis and commuting back and forth, and so I wasn't in Muncie a whole lot. And I continued to drive back and forth for about 2.5 years. It wasn't until the spring of 2000 when I quit work and decided to stay home. And so then I sort of felt lost because I didn't really, I lived in Muncie, but I was only in Muncie to eat and sleep, basically. So Father Jasinski at that time was very active. My oldest one was getting ready to go into preschool at St. Mary's, and so he obviously knew, Father Jasinski knew my son because he would come and visit the children in the preschool, and so he was the one that I really connected with when I first started staying in Muncie, more. Choice of school, it really wasn't a choice. We were always planning on sending our children to Catholic school. Like I said, I went to Catholic school my whole life, and it was very important for me that our children also grow up in a Catholic school. So,
if I could interject, do you
Sure.
see a lot of change, a lot of difference in the school, the elementary school that you grew up in and the school that your children attend here? Has it changed a lot?
The biggest difference I would say would be the size. I mean, the town that I grew up in was maybe a little bit bigger than Muncie, but it had a dozen Catholic churches and probably 3 or 4 Catholic elementary schools and a Catholic high school, and so I'd say that was the biggest difference as far as there. Obviously there aren't as many Catholic schools and Catholic churches here in Muncie as there were in the school that I grew up in. But no, I mean, and of course I had nuns. That would probably be one of the other biggest changes. But no, the class sizes were still small, even though we had a lot of students. We just had that many more teachers, so the class sizes were small. But no, we always knew we would send our kids to Catholic school. Experiences of any overt or covert anti-Catholic attitudes and or practices. I would say the one that hits my husband and I the most seems like whenever we, not all the time, but a lot of times when we meet new people and they find out that we have 4 children, oh, you must be Catholic, you have 4 children, which we hear, and that we've sort of learned to let that kind of roll off our back, especially when I got pregnant with our 4th child, because there's not a lot of age difference between our 3rd and our 4th, and so a lot of people would make little comments about, oh yeah, you have 4 children, and oh, you must send them, they weren't surprised when we said they went to St. Mary's. So view of the future of our parish. Our parish has so many wonderful people in it. It has so many wonderful people in it, and I think our parish, even though it's going through a little bit of a change, right now, and maybe some internal struggles within it, I don't see anything but wonderful things for this parish. I think that this parish will thrive and be strong, and our school will thrive and be strong. I'm looking forward to being at St. Mary's for a long, long time. Any events or other things you would like to talk about? Oh gosh, I don't know. Is there anything specific?
You are obviously active in the parish. Do you serve on a lot of committees or parish council or what all do you and your husband do in the parish? I do.
I am a lector in the parish. My husband and I are both on the marriage preparation team to help engage couples when they're preparing for marriage. I serve on the parish council. I'm currently the chair of the parish council. My husband serves on the finance council. I'm trying to think what else. I do teach children's liturgy of the word, so I do that usually once every month or 2, 6 weeks usually. Teach the children's liturgy. Involved in the Women's Association as far as helping out with the bazaar. I used to be an officer a few years ago, but then once my kids got in school, then I was more actively involved with the school at that point. But I serve on the PTA through the school and do a lot of volunteering in the school and in the classroom when I can and different things. So. What else?
So that's pretty much your story, and
yeah, that's pretty much our story. We like I said, when we moved here, we didn't know anybody. We don't have any family in the area. We're transplants, transplants to Muncie. And like I said, when we first moved here, we just assumed that St. Mary's would be the parish that we would come to because it was the closest to where we lived, and we didn't have an affiliation with Ball State, and so we just sort of tried to jump in with 2 feet. I mean, it was hard in the beginning when I was working and we didn't have any kids in school. It was hard to get to know people because we weren't around a lot. But as my kids got in school and as I got to know more people, and at the time the Mothers of Monica group was still active, which was wonderful because I met a lot of young mothers through that when I first started staying home. So then it made the transition easier because I was home and didn't really know where to go or what to do. So I would say between the Mothers of Monica group and Father Dudzinski was just very active, and he baptized our second and third children, and just took an interest in me and our family, and really kind of called me out to, he was instrumental in getting me to go to the CHIRP retreat, the Christ Renews His Parish retreat. That was a big turning point as far as meeting new people and getting more involved. So it's kind of been a slow and gradual process, but we're very happy to be here. So.
Well, thank you, Anne, for participating in this project, and this concludes this interview. This is Barbara Mikesell.